If you have somehow never heard of televangelist weirdo Jim Bakker, I envy you for it. You have more luck than I have ever had in my whole life, but it seems your luck has run out because fate has led you to this video. And I'm sorry for what happens next because we are about to hear him discuss how UFOs are actually demons. Yes, demons. Somehow, this is not an uncommon belief in the year of our Lord 2024. I'm sad to say, I know people in real life who believe this. And the whole thing is indeed quite silly, but I figure, hey, we may as well, right?
Could some of these UFOs be angels?
Yes.
I mean, there's millions of angels. We've
I
just learned
think
the other
they're
day on the
all
show there's
angels.
millions of angels.
They are all angels.
Don't you just love the confidence of religious people to just be like, yeah, sure, man, UFOs, angels, of course, duh. Like, we haven't gotten to that point yet, guys. We have yet to prove there are even angels in the first place, let alone that there are millions of them, let alone that they're appearing in the sky as unidentified flying objects. We haven't gotten there yet.
Whether or not they are all fallen, we don't know.
Oh. See, you all,
Yep.
we forget sometimes there's good and bad angels.
Yeah.
Right.
Who forgets that exactly? Who forgets that there was a whole war in heaven where Satan and his fellows were cast down from the sky? Like, that's a pretty big part of the story, isn't it? Why do you mean you forget that? I'm an atheist and I don't forget that. Why are you forgetting it? It's your story.
So there are a lot of extraterrestrial craft, or rather unidentified craft is what I meant to say, unidentified craft that are just secret projects the government doesn't want us to know about.
Whoa.
Correct. In fact, I did see a UFO when I was 12 years old. True story. And at the time, it was terrifying. I still am very confused by the whole thing, but I know it happened because I wasn't the only one there who saw it at the time. If you want to hear that, well, of course you do want to hear that. Let me tell you about it. I was outside one night with my dad, and it was a very clear night, very beautiful night. It was the greatest. It was a great night. And all of a sudden, over the field of stars comes this triangular shape. It was pure black, and it was about as big as a football field. It had to be at least that big because there was a big tree line up hundreds of feet above us. And I got a full view of this thing just crossing over a field of stars. Didn't make a sound, didn't seem to have exhaust, didn't have anything like that. It was just kind of hovering over all the trees and stuff. And in each corner was a glowing orange orb. And I call them orbs because they didn't look like normal lights. And I don't know what they were, so the word orbs seems to suffice. Somebody get up with Marianne Williamson, get her on the case. She'll figure this whole thing out for us real quick. But I have a very clear memory of this thing just going off into the trees, taking a left turn, and just being like, what was that? And as a kid, I thought aliens were really cool. So, of course, I thought, oh my god, we are about to get invaded. But as I've gotten older, I just thought, well, this was 2002, okay? I was 12, it was 2002, summer 2002. We were at war in Afghanistan, a lot of stuff was going on. Probably some experimental government stuff that they didn't mind a bunch of rednecks in Kentucky seeing at that time. Maybe in the era of smartphones, they would have flown a little bit higher, but yes, it does seem likely that was some kind of government craft. And personally, I am no believer in this UAP stuff because I can't really see any reason aliens should want to come here, or interdimensional beings, or whatever you want to call them. It's government spacecraft, or not spacecraft, it's government craft, I should say, sorry about that, or misidentifications of very common things, or just stuff people aren't prepared for. And I saw one video on Reddit recently of a jellyfish UFO captured on a drone. And it was clearly just like bird poop on a drone, and when the dome moved, the bird poop would move. But that's the kind of thing people are passing off as high quality evidence that they are among us. And by they, I don't mean the Jews for once. Somehow, this time, it's not the Jews. I think we can all be glad for that at least.
Oh, I got one too. Oh, God help me. But I've always wanted to ask somebody, in the wheel in the middle of the wheel in the Bible,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
and it comes up and down from the throne of heaven.
Yeah. Yes.
Could that be Esther?
Oh, you're
'Cause
going to
the
love
wheel-
this answer. You are-
Okay, so is he talking about some of these biblical angels? Because I'm pretty sure that's exactly where they're mentioned, like the Ophanim and all that good stuff, be not afraid, all those things. I love that shit.
Seriously, you are going to love this answer. That's a type of being.
Yes.
Yeah, it's an actual
It's not
class
a
of
wheel.
angel called the
Look at this guy. Okay, look at the guy, like, right up there. Look at that guy. Straight above me. Straight above my finger right there. Look at that guy. He knows, like, this is all nonsense. The look on his face, the smiles he's making is just like a look of, you are all rubes. That is the most knowing look I have ever seen on a TV show of this type. That is just pure, like, you idiots.
Ophanim.
The Ophanim,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's a
that's
type
an
of
actual
angel, yeah.
angel. When we
And-
go to
Told you. I told you.
heaven, we're going to see angels like that there.
That is
Wheels
a-
and wheels and eyes.
With
It's
eyes
really
all
weird,
around,
right?
yeah.
Exactly.
But if we
That's-
were to see something like that today, way high up in the sky where we couldn't get like a really good view of it, but just kind of the shape, what is that going to look like? Probably some type of UFO. And so I think that stuff gets misinterpreted a lot in our day today.
Oh, yeah.
No, but you know, there are these like conspiracies that go around. I mean, I've been on conspiracy forums for a long time. I'm not a conspiracy theorist or anything like that. Obviously, some conspiracies will inevitably turn out to be true. We don't know what those are yet, but some will, some do, they always have. But I have been a casual observer of conspiracy forums for a very long time. And this UFOs are really angels or demons or whatever else thing has actually been going around a very long time. In a sense, I'm actually surprised it took mainstream evangelical culture this long to latch onto it. This video is something like 2 years old, so like 2022. And it's very odd to me, like, that they're finally like getting into UFOs, but like, oh, don't worry, it's not aliens, it's just the devil. Like, isn't that some weird stuff? Like, this is on the level of like when young Earth creationists finally started believing in dinosaurs, and their first explanation was, oh, well, yeah, so there are all these bones that they are real bones, but the devil put them there to test our faith. Now, of course, you've got the Creation Museum, which has a very different take on the whole thing, but at first it was a very odd explanation. I don't know what stage we're at with like the UFOs are demons or angels thing, but whatever stage it is, it would be hilarious if it weren't like so depressing, right?
Yeah. Now you're
yeah.
talking, of course,
So
about
it's
what
not
Ezekiel
weird
saw.
to think about supernatural things because
Not at
there
all.
really are, and,
Yeah.
and angels are supernatural.
That's right.
Exactly.
But here's the thing that blew my mind.
Again, with the claims, just you're making. Okay, so it's not like I expect this guy to be like firmly planted in the sciences, firmly rooted in experimentation and that sort of thing, but like, come on, man. I mean, these people, they just make stuff up willy-nilly. They're just like, well, yeah, I mean, there's weird stuff in the Bible, there's weird stuff in the sky now, so surely it has to be like the same caliber of weird stuff, right? It's obvious, isn't it, everybody? Well, no, it's not. I mean, first of all, we have yet to prove that these UAPs are really anything important at all. And then we have yet to prove there's anything supernatural at all. So we've just got like a series of just like unproven, probably unprovable things that they're just, you know, putting together all at once. Like, ah, yes, this is perfectly reasonable, isn't it, my fellows?
Is when our good friend Dr. Michael Heiser is not only a world-class Bible scholar, he's also a well-known ufologist who gets on Coast to Coast AM. He talked to Art Bell and George Norrie many times.
Oh my God, there's a flashback. I don't know if any of y'all have heard of that. Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell and George Newry later. That was some amazing stuff. You know, as a kid in the 90s, my biological father and I, whenever he took me places, whenever he got those rare moments of custody for a second, we would listen to like Coast to Coast AM on the way back from wherever if it was on. And, you know, that just awesome stuff. Like, scared me half to death as like a kid in the 90s, but like I didn't take it that seriously. It's just that, like, you know, kids have crazy imaginations. So you hear about all this wild stuff and it's like, oh, that's actually kind of like scary, right? But man, that's a real flashback. I wasn't expecting these people to know about that for some reason, even though I think Art Bell was kind of like a weird conservative, or maybe that was George Newry. One of them was. But does anybody else remember that? Because man, that was so much of my childhood. Like, my father was so into that stuff, that whole like kind of aliens thing and supernatural stuff. And the world just seemed like such an interesting place in the 90s. We had the X-Files. I think that led into some of that as well. But like, man, just imagine like telling somebody from like listening to Coast to Coast AM in the 90s, like telling them about like this and these people referencing that, how completely depressing would that be to hear about as like a kid in the 90s? Like, oh, by the way, this stuff you think is really cool and weird now, the Christians are going to take it and run with it in 20 years. Enjoy.
About UFOs and the relationship to the Bible. The image, what Ezekiel saw, and Pastor Jim was talking about Ezekiel chapter 1, where he saw the wheels within wheels and the cherubim.
That certain shows with really high hair talk about it.
Yeah.
Man, that's kind of like Blade Runner 2042, or 2049, sorry. I'm just messing up all over the place today. I haven't had much sleep. This is the first video I've done in 10 days. You'll have to give me some leeway on this one. I'm not going to cut this stuff up. I'm not going to slice this video up. I'm just, like, not going to do that. You got to bear with it here. But it does remind me of, like, you know, what is it? Interlaced, you know, wheels and wheels. Just very odd stuff. Maybe that's where the Blade Runner people got that from, because, like, Blade Runner obviously had a lot of, like, allusions to religion all throughout it. Sometimes in very ham-fisted ways, like the Roy Batty stuff, but yeah, like the fingers interlaced sort of thing, wheels and wheels. Very. Now that's just a shot in the dark. Maybe I'm wrong, but it makes sense to me, and it's at least as valid as like these people's takes on whatever the hell they're talking about now, and more interesting to talk about. Isn't Blade Runner more awesome and interesting, even if like the ideas about it aren't true than whatever these people are saying? Like, this stuff is fascinating, but, like, Jesus Christ, people, give it a rest.
UFO.
Right. But that's only if you're looking at that from a 21st century perspective. We've been indoctrinated by 70 years of science fiction films coming out of Hollywood, but 600 years.
We have been indoctrinated by science fiction film. Now, there is a hot take if I have ever heard one. Have y'all gotten your mandatory indoctrination lately from Star Trek? Yeah, me neither.
Before the birth of Christ, everyone in Mesopotamia would have known what Ezekiel saw. That's a representation of the throne room of God. That's what the royal thrones looked like in ancient.
Everyone in Mesopotamia would not have known that. Mesopotamia was a very wide area. The peoples of Israel and Judea, they were not over that wide of an area. They were not that numerous. I assume some people would have definitely like heard of their stuff outside of the tribes, but like no, Mesopotamia would not have known all of that stuff. Although some of these were like shared myths among the Canaanites, for example. No doubt like that there are these pantheons of the gods that took from like other gods of the region, took other ideas, mythologies, that sort of thing from them. But like I don't think you can just make that assumption straight up that like, oh, everybody else knew about these things too back then. So if they saw these things in the sky, they would have known what they were.
Mesopotamia. That's what Ezekiel saw. But what's really blew our mind, during our weekly Bible study, we stumbled on this. You'll notice in the book of Ezekiel, he mentions about 5 or 6 times the vision I had over the Kebar Canal. Over the Kebar Canal. The vision that I saw at the Kebar Canal. What's significant about the Kebar Canal? It ran right through the ancient city of Nippur, which was where the temple for the chief god of Mesopotamia was. The chief god of Mesopotamia, Enlil, who was the king of their pantheon before Marduk came to power when Babylon became great again. Enlil, God.
When Babylon became great again, this is like some America, like, you know, make America great again stuff. I do like that this guy's like spitting knowledge on these people. These people are probably just like slack-jawed in the background like, huh? You know that cat meme, huh? It is fun stuff, but like, why is he like conflating a vision with something more than that? Like, if an angel literally appears in the sky as a big like Ophanim styled like set of turning wheels with eyes all over them, can we really say that's a vision at that point? Isn't that just like you are literally seeing an angel? Like, that's not what I think of when I think of vision. When you think of visions, you think like something that's not actually happening, like a dream, like God sends you a dream while you're awake, a hallucination, like maybe you did some mushrooms over there or something, which is a lot more likely than actually being sent a vision from God, I'd say.
God manifested his glory right over the temple of the chief god of Mesopotamia.
Wow.
That was not a coincidence.
That's
and
right.
Ezekiel made sure to include that over and over again throughout his book, just to reinforce, because his readers would have known.
Derek Gilbert, I like you. Sometimes I just can't help but like people even if they're wrong. But yeah, I like this guy. I mean, let's be honest, he looks like a creep. I'm sure there's some like shady stuff happening in his background. I hope it hasn't come out yet because I'll feel really bad about it putting out this video if it has and just like it came out. But co-host of the Bible's Greatest Mysteries, we, my friends, are going to have to look into this. I don't know if this is a podcast or what, but this right here, my appetite has been significantly whetted for this, whatever this is.
Oh yeah, Nippur, that's where all the gods of Mesopotamia meet once a year to decree the fates of the land.
Yes.
God appeared to Ezekiel right over that temple and said,
Amen.
here's
Don't you
what's going to
love that?
happen
Go
even until
Lord.
the end of time.
Yeah.
Go, Lord.
Boom, mic drop.
Okay, I'm not sure that's the right situation to go with a boom mic drop, but sure, whatever, my guy. Anyway, this is my first video back from my long break. I had about a 10-day break, 11-day break. I apologize. Before that happened, you see, I was trying to make a spate of videos. But then my aunt ended up hospitalized with double pneumonia, and I had to spend days taking care of my uncle. Now, I love my uncle. I was happy to do so. But he has, let's say, hearing problems that are very not good. In fact, after staying at his house for about 3 days, I have hearing problems that are not good. And I've been to punk shows, so there was no way I was getting anything recorded over there. And, you know, I even tried to record in New York City, where I went on vacation. This, in fact, is the result of that whole excursion, because I did buy this, thinking, well, maybe I can do some videos with this. But no, everything kept going wrong. The whole time I was in New York City, anytime I tried to record, everything went terribly wrong. So I'm out of the groove, and this is like the first video in a series trying to get back in the groove. Hopefully you like this microphone. Hopefully this video isn't the worst thing I've ever recorded, but if it is, you now have context as to why. And one more thing before we head out. Why I was in New York City. On March 1st, I got married, like for real, like actual like marriage certificate and everything. You know, the whole till death do you part thing, and like that was a wild ride, my guys. I'm 33 years old. I turned 34 this year. Never thought that was going to happen, but it happened. And wow, what a wild feeling that is. So obviously I've had a lot going on, and I'm hoping that for a while going forward we can have no more interruptions on regular videos, daily, you know, maybe twice a day if I can. And I'm going to get back on that horse, so to speak. So this is the first, probably not the best, but now you know why. And I hope that if you sat through all of this, you have a good one, because that's awesome. Thank you. I know that probably wasn't the easiest watch ever. Have a great day.